So I am Suzanne Sullivan. I am the 5th through 12th grade science instructional coach and department leader in Brantford, Connecticut. To get started on a book club, I think you need your own, like you really have to be curious yourself about the book. I think that is first and foremost. Like it is really helpful to, you obviously you need a group of folks who are also engaged in the process. I think having a structure, an intentional structure, was really super important. So it wasn't like just read the chapter and show up and we'll have a conversation. I, like I said, I was trying to pull up the prompts, but we had common prompts for each of the chapters in terms of, and not really super different than what you would do in a typical language arts classroom. Like, what were the big ideas? What impacted you? What resonated with you? What impacted you? What challenged your thinking? Having a structure, having a place to hold the information. So we have a shared Google Drive with all of the resources that everyone contributed. So like here I have a copy of the Talk Moves, that's a poster set, or here, I've got the modeling questions, the bookmarks, right? So there really wasn't a lot in the way of high quality units. I had heard of ambitious science teaching, and we had used some of the articles on the website, and it was like, these articles are really super helpful. I need to know more about what's in this whole the book. Essentially, there was a real gap between what we were doing with the previous state standards that we had and where we needed to go. And there were things that just didn't make sense around what modeling is and what constructing explanations was supposed to be. But I couldn't really put my finger on why. And I saw some of the why in those articles from ambitious science teaching. And it was like, okay, I need to look more deeply at this text. I had this book and I knew that I didn't want to do it alone. And so I just tossed out the invite on Twitter. And I was absolutely overwhelmed with, in a positive way, with the response. And as we were working, we might have been moving through a chapter and then we got stuck on something. So, like equity was a really important moment. Stop and like, well, wait a minute. What do we mean when we're talking about equity? And we ended up needing to spend a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, just like, what do we agree we're talking about when we're talking about equity? Because we're not talking about access. We're not just talking about access. We're talking about like really engaging all students and, this idea of an asset-based lens. And so we really had to pause the book and dig into that and our own experiences and our own thinking further until we were satisfied that it was like, okay, now we can continue forward with the book. Folks were willing to try an experiment within their rooms and experiment with conversations that they were having with other adults. Folks started feeling more comfortable talking about not only what it needs to look like, but I think the thing that we got really from ambitious science teaching that was so important was like how and why. We got a lot of clarity from the book on what we're looking for in an explanation, and therefore, like, if we know what we're assessing for, we now know what do we need to be teaching for? How do we support the students in getting toward being able to express how or why a phenomenon is happening versus what is happening and describing the details of it. How do students revise models? What does that look like? How do students give feedback to each other? How does that modeling look over time? There was just, I mean, really, it's like picking your favorite kid, right? Like, so,